First and foremost, good afternoon, everybody, just after 12:02, and welcome to our Career Navigator webinar focused on mentorship. My name is Chris Britton. I'm the Marketing Director at SagePath Consulting. And I'd first like to begin by congratulating all of you here for taking an intentional approach to personal and professional development and growth. I know that you'll all leave with some fantastic insights on how to integrate mentorship into your career development plans or possibly refine the approaches that you currently use. But before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Your mics and cameras have been turned off intentionally so we don't break the internet and take up all the bandwidths. To engage in the session, I think use the reaction icons. We already gave drive. You can type any comments into the chat or leverage the Q&A function. We'll be monitoring them throughout the session. We really want this to be interactive, so there will be a good chunk of time for questions at the end. In the chat currently is a link to our Career Mentor tool. So if you go into the meeting chat, it'll be the first thing that's posted. So this tool, is so you can follow along during the session should you wish, but also certainly so you can download it and leverage it after today's webinar and put into practice. We'll also be sending out a recording after the session, as I alluded to, so feel free to take notes, but you can also just totally immerse yourself in the content, be present, get the most out of today's session. So with that, I'd now like to introduce you to our facilitator, Michael Campbell, President of SagePath Consulting. With over 30 years of experience in the financial services industry and large organizations, Michael is a strategic leader who's built a career empowering and coaching talented teams and individuals to accomplish great things. He has a proven track record of driving growth and engagement through creativity, digital innovation, and first-to-market product launches. He's managed profits and losses in the tens of millions and led national sales teams with $6 billion targets. He's experienced the magic that can happen when small teams focused on a shared goal and the unintended shortcomings of working for large matrix organizations. SagePath's Career Navigator program is the culmination of those experiences, focused at sharing strategies and tools with people just like you who are looking to take charge of their career growth through intentional planning and action. So without any further delay, I hope you enjoy today's session. I'm sure you will, and I'll pass things over to Michael.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time today to be with us. And hopefully through this presentation, we'll be able to give you a tool that allows you to walk away and think about mentorship differently than you have before. And, you know, those some of you on the line know me well, and I always like a tool that forces you to write things down, because when you write something down, you're more likely to commit yourself to performing it and following through on it. So that hence the tool that we've created. It's a fillable PDF. You can print it out, and there's enough space to write on it if you like old school, but also you can edit it and keep editing it as you go along your mentorship journey. So with that, why don't we jump right in and give you a little bit of a background on our path today, cover a little bit about what is mentorship and the benefits of mentorship. And we're going to give you kind of a new way to think about mentorship. Often people think about mentorship from the perspective of them being the mentee. But we're going to introduce you to a couple different types of relationships around mentorship that I think maybe not everybody thinks about every day. And then we're going to talk through how you might approach those as you're then using the tool and then thinking about what your next steps are going to be in your journey. And then we'll have some closing thoughts. And of course, use the chat, please, to, oh, I'm seeing some chat here that folks are not seeing some of the information in there. So Chris, I'm techie extraordinaire. I'm sure you'll be doing that in behind the scenes while we keep moving. So why don't we jump right into the content here? And I think people will, you know, we have the formal definition on the slide here. And in my mind, when we saw that, it just feels way too restrictive in terms of what a mentorship likely means. To me, it's much deeper than that. First of all and foremost, it's a relationship that is built on trust. It's a caring relationship. There is a commitment going in both directions. Often, sometimes people only think of the commitment as one direction only. And then it's a relationship of honesty. And so while you're reflecting on both being a mentor or a mentee, you want to be really thinking about who that person is in in this relationship, that you can have honest conversations. What you want to watch is that it's not just someone that's going to tell you what you want to hear. And I think that's key and critical in any relationship that you develop that's in this mentorship space. It's sharing. And so when I mean sharing, there is as much to get out of being the mentor as being the mentee. And so making sure that it is a two-way street where each person is committed and sharing and leaning in and learning in both directions. And in any of the relationships I've ever had in both directions, I always walk away learning something new. There's always opportunity to learn from people that are following behind you, new technology, new ways of thinking, new ways of working. And so when you're the mentor, and as we'll see, when you're the peer as well, there's huge opportunity to be looking at how you can also benefit from that relationship, and that it is not just a one-way street. And then it's absolutely critical, if you have goals of growing your career and being promoted and moving up the ladder, as it were, then this is absolutely necessary in terms of all kinds of the mentorship to be able to cultivate this into your career. And you'll get way more out of it than you'll put into it, I promise you. But one of the things to really couple things to keep in mind, it is not a transaction. Do not be in a hurry to label it. You don't have to call it a thing, a mentorship. It can just simply be a professional relationship with people that you know, like, and trust. And it doesn't have to be quid pro quo, where each time there is a meeting or an exchange that it is equal in both directions. It is equal over the entire journey of time. And so I always like to say, though, that always try to be 51% of the relationship, right? So always take that next step. Sometimes people are busy following up. Oh, I followed up last time, I'm waiting for them to follow up this time. Always try to aim to be 51% of the relationship, assume good intent, and sometimes that might mean that you might have to just reach out a little bit more to make things happen. So with that, why don't we jump into some of the benefits of mentorship? And some of these may be, quite obvious. Obviously it's a support system to help you combat that negative self-talk. There's nothing really more insidious in our brain as negative self-talk, and having someone that is a support to help us think differently, challenge our thinking, and maybe get us out of our echo chamber is really important. Having someone to share your goals with, and SMART goals, goals turn to actions, actions turn to outcomes. And when you make commitments to another individual, like an accountability buddy, think about going to the gym, and oh, geez, I don't really want to get off the couch right now and go, but I know that they're going to be there. So I feel that commitment to the other individual to be that part of that relationship. And so when I share my goals with now that person, it will give me that much more motivation in terms of following through on those. And that's that accountability link to really make sure that we say what we're going to do, and then we do what we say we're going to do. And so one of the real challenges as human beings is, we have great intentions, we have great starts, and then what is that sustainability over a long period of time? And so having someone that will help hold you accountable in a friendly and caring way, but speaking the truth, will for sure benefit you over the long run. The other thing is obvious, is networking. either you providing introductions to your colleagues or people that they should be speaking to, depending on which chair you're sitting in, but also the other way. And expanding our network is critically important to growing your career. In terms of being introduced to people that maybe thought leaders in their space, maybe an opportunity, someone that may be a hiring leader in the future. You don't know. You're planting, when you're networking, you're planting seeds, and you don't know when some of those will sprout up and grow. And you'd be surprised how many things happen completely out of left field when you were not expecting it. And so that's the idea of that networking and career growth that then helps you be more intentional about your approach and turn it actually into a little bit more of a process than it happening by happenstance. And that's what we really want to pivot here to, is having a more intentional approach than just hoping and praying that it's going to turn out in the way that you're imagining in your brain. And so with that, why don't we look at just a couple of things. People who know me know I like data. Stories are good, data is better. And when we take a look at the impact on both mentors and mentees, it's pretty substantial. And that, goes back to my beginning comments about how important it is to build these types of relationships and grow them over time. So this is a marathon. This is not the 100-yard sprint. And so being able to be much more intentional about your approach around this topic will definitely impact your career. But I cannot promise you how and when. And that is the interesting thing about life. But I can guarantee you, people who are more intentional in this space over people who are not are going to see more good things happen over time. So with that, why don't we jump in a little bit more around the 3 types of relationships? Often people are only thinking about the first one, those that are ahead of us. But there's actually 3 different types of relationships on the path. Those ahead of us on the path, those peers alongside us on the path, and those folks that are following us on the path. And so what we're going to do today is, with the tool, and we've got a couple slides that will help us kind of think about that, but is think about your position in each one of those and how you might develop relationships in each of these 3 categories. So the first one, those ahead of us. This is the one that we most commonly think about when we build mentor and mentee relationships. And so what I'd like you to do after today's meeting is really sit down with the tool and think about individuals or an individual that you aspire to follow in their path. They're inspirational. There is opportunity for you to learn and grow, that they are on the path or have generally been on the path that you wish to go along. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? Like, this is having someone that can help you navigate because they've had similar challenges and issues along their journey. And then their advice is really coming from someone that has done it already. And so there's space on the tool to really think about what is inspiring about that individual, what are the key qualities, and why do you look up to them? And by writing that down, I think you'll really see how they may match what you're looking for and what will benefit you over the long run. Now, how do you approach them? So key is approaching these folks for simple informational interview or a casual conversation. If you're jumping right in and saying, hey, I'd like you to be my mentor, that's way too early, right? And so because both people have to find that they're a match for each other on this journey. And so really what you want to do is just meet them, have a coffee chat. Everybody has to have a coffee break every once in a while. Everybody can have a bite to eat for lunch. It's actually quite simple. You just really need to ask. people are generally very friendly and accommodating, whether that's inside or outside your organization. And you just want to chat. You're not really asking for anything other than some time, and be prepared. Have questions that you're seeking answers on from a perspective of what's going on in the industry, what are some of the big challenges the industry is facing, whatever your domain of knowledge or expertise that you're looking to gain insight on, is you want to come prepared with those kinds of questions to have a great conversation. And then you might ask them some questions around navigating some of the challenges that you're facing. Here's the thing I'm facing, here's the scenario. I was wondering if you had any ideas or suggestions or counsel on how I might approach that. And so you're just really having a very casual type conversation, but you're showing that you're prepared and interested and intentional in the discussion. And then, you would seek over time to have more regular contact. I can tell you, one of my mentors, we've never labeled the relationship. We meet not on a set frequency, but I know that I could text him at 11 o'clock at night with an issue, and he's going to answer, right? So we have a relationship. We've never labeled it, and it's been there for nearly a decade. But from that perspective, I know that if I really need to seek his counsel, he's there for me. And we've just grown that over time. And so that's really kind of the tight relationship that you would be looking to generate over a period of time with someone where you're in the mentee chair. So why don't we jump then to the next one? This is the one that I don't think many people think of at all. And who is along the path with you? Often we think of number 1 and number 3, but not folks that are on the journey with us. And so here's your spot to identify a peer or a colleague that is generally at the same career stage as you, and think together about the ways that you could collaborate or learn together to help each other get ahead. And so, that might be sharing your goals with each other and then holding each other accountable to that. Exploring joint learning opportunities. Hey, you know what? I'm really interested in this generative AI. I don't know where to step in. Why don't we take a course together? Or why don't we go to an event or work together? Can we collaborate on a project together? Can we work it out with our leaders and our organization to collaborate on something? And we're both bringing different skills that we want to help each other improve on. And then sharing resources or insights for each other's mutual benefit. And so, if you want to think of it almost like your wingman, right? You're thinking about Top Gun or something like that. Like, who is the person that's right alongside you? And this is not a commiseration party, right? Like, I know that sometimes we have hallway chats or we go for coffee and we, want to commiserate together about the thing that is bothering us at work or whatever. But this is a much different relationship where you're really focused on that career growth and growth mindset for both of you and how you might help each other. And so I would really encourage you that if you don't have someone in this space, that you really think about that going forward and have a peer-to-peer conversation about working together. And I think you'll see all kinds of benefits that come out of that. And then finally, the folks that are coming behind us. I've seen it time and time again that people that are maybe in mid or early career think that they can't be a mentor to someone else. There is always someone on the path behind you. And whether or not you're 3 or 4 years into your career, there are graduates, students coming out of university or college or trade or whatever business that you happen to be in. There's always somebody coming in behind you that you could offer your support and your mentorship and guidance to help them navigate. We've all been familiar with joining a job for the very first time, or joining a new organization for the very first time, and navigating, the matrix or the organizational culture. It doesn't have to be at your current place of work. It could be somewhere else. Just even helping someone into the job market and helping them prepare for interviews. There's all kinds of different ways that you could help someone behind you. And I can guarantee you that you will get more out of this than actually they will. The personal fulfillment of helping someone else and seeing them be successful is a fantastic reward for investing your time in that individual. And I would say that, just as I suggested, being prepared and showing up prepared, the same way when you're in this chair as well, that you are prepared for the discussion. You have good questions that will nudge them along the way. You're asking them, how can I help? Sometimes people behind us are shy to ask. I was going to use the word afraid, but maybe it's more like they're shy to ask. So why don't you put them at ease by saying, how can I help? And just by saying, how can I help, they would probably open up much more to be able to say, well, I would really appreciate this, or it would be really helpful if that. And I think then that kind of just allows them to be calm and allows them to move on in the discussion. And then now you can start to generate that ongoing relationship. So really think about, if you are not a mentor to someone because you've been hesitant in terms of, well, here's where I am in my career today, and I'm not really sure that I would be helpful to somebody, I can guarantee you there's somebody that you can be helpful to. So with that, why don't we move to the next slide and kind of like wrap this up and leave some room for some questions. But we do want to talk about that this is a relationship, not a transaction. And it will take some time to generate these into true relationships of trust and honesty and caring. But I think if you invest the right amount of time and the right amount of intention around the process, the follow-up, the doing your share or 51% of the relationship, then you will get an awful lot out of this type of approach to your career management. You don't need to wait until your employer has a formal program. Many employers maybe do not have formal programs. They might have some informal approaches. You don't need to wait. The beauty of this is that you can take this completely within your control. It does not have to be within your current company. There are people that you can build these relationships within your community, within your LinkedIn audience, and turn those into a little bit more formal interactions. And so what you want to obviously do over time is find people that have a common mindset. And I think then over your career, you will find that these are some of the best work relationships that you will ever have. Do we have some questions in the chat, Chris? And then we got kind of a little bit of a wind up. You're on mute.
After 3 years of doing this, you'd learn how to not be on mute, but that's fine. We have one question in the chat. How do you navigate this process with new hires? We don't know them personally, and sometimes it can be difficult to place them with a mentor they would connect with.
Good question. And I guess the question really is, so the context might matter here in terms of how large the organization is that you're working for. In a very large matrix organization, there might be people that are working in a completely different department. But I would suggest that you have colleagues at your level in that organization, other leaders that you're working with day to day and you have regular meetings with. And you might say to them, hey, I'm really interested in helping somebody out that's just new to the organization. Have you hired anybody recently on your team that could really benefit from that type of connection? And so whatever level you might be in the organization, there are your colleagues that are hiring people. So starting to build that across with your colleagues is a good way to find those people that you may not have met yet that could benefit from it.
Yeah,
That
I
would be
think
my suggestion.
yeah, I think another strategy too could be informally looking for folks within your organization that may be looking at leadership opportunities. So I know in our experience, we've assigned maybe not so much a mentor per se, but if you look at people that are looking at the next stage in their career and it involves leadership and they don't have any functional accountability for that in their current role, you can sort of assign them a new hire as almost like a buddy, in the sense that we're going to align you with this person. They've been here, they know the role, they know the ins and outs, and you're sort of not only giving somebody an opportunity to maybe try their hand at informal leadership, but sometimes certainly that helping hand mentorship type relationship can foster within that environment too.
Excellent.
Another question, how do you suggest developing a formal mentorship program if one doesn't already exist at an organization?
Well, that really depends, I would say, on the organization. So, obviously happy to chat offline about approaches, but obviously first, if you're going to introduce something into the organization, I would suggest that the top of the house be on side to the idea, so that then it has the support from top to bottom. If it is supported from the top of the house, whatever size company again that we're speaking about, then the participation rate of those folks that will be probably asked to be mentors will probably be better. And so really making sure that the culture supports that type of relationship in the organization, that it becomes less about who's the leader of who, because sometimes you could find that, well, so-and-so now is a mentor to this other person, and that is somehow giving them an unfair advantage over others, and people get into conspiracy theories and things like that. So I think you really want to be able to set the stage for what it is and what it is not, and then also to make sure that the senior leaders that are probably going to be asked a fair number of times, that there's a real structure to be able to set that up in a more intentional way in the organization, so you're not creating chaos. I mean, today we're talking to individuals that are going to choose their own path, and that's a little bit different than, let's say, an HR function starting to create a program for an organization. You're going to want to have to think about that a little bit differently, of how you introduce it and how you get people ready for that and how you do the matchmaking. There's probably just a little bit more complexity to it. With that, I'd like to thank everybody today for attending, and please give us some feedback. This was the first one that we were doing, and we want to grow and learn and keep improving and bringing content to folks that's valuable to them. Cheers, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.